everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sex Here and Now. As always, I'm your host, Matt Lockman. I'm a licensed clinical therapist and ASEX certified sex therapist. Today, I thought I would get a little up close and personal with all of you and share a little bit about myself. A part of my life that I don't keep secret from many people is my involvement in the poly community. Polyamory, or the concept that relationships, love, and sex can involve more than one person, is not a new concept for human beings. But unfortunately, it is one shrouded in misinformation, misconceptions, and confusion. As someone who grew up in the United States, I, like most humans, grew up only knowing monogamy as an option. So I thought I would take all of you on my journey as a way to help those of you who may be struggling opening up and exploring polyamory, or just want more information on this healthy and normal relationship structure. Or maybe y'all just want to be nosy and know more about it. So this is a wild ride, so buckle up. But first, I am an ASEX certified sex therapist, and also I should probably provide a quick refresher of polyamory. In short, polyamory can be used as an umbrella term like ethical or consensual non monogamy, and it can also be used as a relationship structure. People who are ethically non monogamous believe that relationships and sex do not need to be committed to just one individual, and that feelings of love and intimacy can be expressed towards more than one individual. An example I use here quite often is that all humans have the capacity of loving multiple things: their family, friends, pets, partners. They just choose to define that love differently. Well, this is romantic love and this is platonic love. Duh. While I get that, research shows that the hormones we release when we feel romantic and platonic love are all the same: oxytocin, dopamine, and so on. The poly lifestyle has existed just as long as the monogamous lifestyle, but due to puritanical religions and sex negativity, we only adopted and promoted monogamy. Poly people can identify themselves as poly, swingers, open, hierarchical, as anarchists, and more. So, whatever feels the most comfortable for that person, that is what you express. If you want a deeper dive, I have past episodes on polyamory that I will link in the show notes. For me, poly did not come easy. I grew up in the Midwest, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, to be precise, and I was raised in a Catholic household. I like to say I was forced to do Catholicism because it truly wasn't a choice. My siblings and I had to go to Mass every Sunday, no matter what. My brother, Sean, who's a couple years older than me, he and I would go, we'd walk to the church and we would just hang outside because we hated being in it. We hated being surrounded by all those people, hearing all of, the homily and the sermon, all of that. We just hated it. So we would hang outside the church, and then our father would request us to, say a little bit, of what we heard in the homily, and what we heard towards the end. And so one of us would go back in and listen, and then we would walk home and we would ace that test. But back to me. Like most Midwesterners, if you played sports, that means that you would probably play tournaments on the weekends. And if you were good at sports, the championships would usually be on Sunday, thus meaning you were able to skip Mass. So I did that. I became very good at tennis, and I would be lying to say that part of the reason I was motivated to win was to avoid sitting through an hour-long Catholic Mass. I never was connected much to Catholicism, probably due to my sexual orientation. I knew I was attracted to men since I can remember. And if you know anything about Catholicism, it is not too friendly to the homosexuals. Why I think this is important to explain to all of you is because for me, growing up gay in the 90s and early 2000s made me feel as though I had to hide myself away and not rock the boat. So once I entered high school, which was a Catholic all male high school, I quickly butched myself up, became more masculine, and used my white privilege, height privilege, I'm 6'4", and being good at sports to create a cover for myself. It was as if people could look past my gayness because I brought the currency of being a star tennis player to the school. Although I was horrendously bullied my freshman year, it started to fade away some the more I made my mark. But the damage was done, and the internalized heterosexism was there in full force. Brief note here: internalized heterosexism is something that queer people have to deal with. Essentially, you don't give yourself the opportunity to grow in your queer identity because the primary beliefs and views of heterosexuals, the dominant sexual orientation, are shoved down your throat. Because of this, I, like most people, believe that monogamy was the only option for me. So that's what I did. Entering college was a liberating experience. I went to a small liberal arts school on the outskirts of Cleveland and was able to reconnect with parts of my identity that I had locked away. I opened up and started being what felt at the time my true authentic self. That version of Matt from 18 to 28. I wasn't in college until 28, but what I'm saying is that version of myself that started at 18 and lasted all the way till I was 28 went through many evolutions. From graduating college and moving out of state for grad school to 4 years later moving back to Cleveland and reconnecting with family and friends, I felt like I learned so much about my values and who I was as a human. At the time, I believed in monogamy and never even considered polyamory. In fact, I didn't even know what it was. I had several hookups and 2 unsuccessful relationships and just told myself, you are waiting for the right guy. Don't put yourself out there and have too much sex. If I met this version of Matt today, I would give him a big hug and tell him that his world is about to change. In November of 2016, I went on my first date with my current partner and fiance, Jim. And little would I know that my world and views would be changing over the next couple of years. Our relationship started like most other relationships. Sex was fun, we connected emotionally, and we were loving and engaging in that new relationship energy. It was also around this time that I found my way into the world of sex therapy and started my journey to becoming a certified sex therapist. I was feeling completely lost in my career. I had 2 master's degrees, and although I liked my job at the Cleveland Clinic, it definitely was not fulfilling. So when I found sex therapy, it truly felt like a spark was getting ignited within myself. This is when I started being exposed to a lot of concepts that most therapists don't get exposed to: kink, out of control sexual behaviors, and different relationship structures like polyamory. Life was good. And then all of a sudden, a Betty Who concert changed everything. Let me take you to that night. Summer of 2017. My partner and I and a few of our friends decided to attend a Betty Who concert. We had been dating for around 9 months and had hit a few bumps in the road, but nothing was, nothing wasn't able to be handled. After a great night, we went home and I could tell something was on Jim's mind. As we were getting ready to go to bed, he brought up how he wanted more from our sex life together and wanted to open up the relationship. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. I wept. And not just like I found out Charmed was being canceled after 8 seasons. I mean, guttural crying. I don't know what it was. I was so confused. My partner was sitting there and telling me how much he loved me and did not want to break up with me. But he was also telling me that he was not fully satisfied with our sex life. I also don't think the several vodka sodas helped. After reassuring me he didn't want to break up, we fell asleep in each other's arms and decided to tackle it the next day. Well, the next day came, and I am sure we had a conversation, but I couldn't remember. Your brain does that from time to time. It protects you from unwanted memories or allows you to forget what is not serving you. What I do recall is that it was not easy. My world of Prince Charming and being with my partner for 100 years was now being shattered. I thought polyamory or open relationships don't work. They're only for people who want to cheat or are just afraid of commitment. Why doesn't he just break up with me? This wasn't making any sense. So, as a therapist, I told him we had to go to couples therapy. We found our way to our first couples therapist, a delightful older gentleman named Leslie. And after 2 sessions, decided Leslie was not the right fit for us. Our sex life had stayed relatively the same, and we went on to start avoiding the topic of opening up altogether. What I would later find out is a very common thing for people to do who are new to poly. As I stated previously, I was starting my journey to becoming a certified sex therapist during this time and figured, let's dive into this poly shit and see what it's all about. What I was beginning to learn is that polyamory and monogamy are not that different from one another. One of the main differences coming from the fact that poly, allowing for fluidity, and monogamy requires exclusivity, especially the monogamy that humans practice. But both promoted open communication, trust, honesty, and respect. As our relationship continued to stagnate and us feeling firm in our beliefs, we decided to find another couples therapist to help us again. But this time, the therapist would be competent in the world of polyamory. We soon found our new therapist, Pete, and began the long journey of opening up, being vulnerable, and challenging our relationship. We spent session after session breaking down the concepts of love and relationships. There were a lot of tears and frustrations. We not only explored opening up our relationship, but all the dark shit that had been swirling around us for years. Eventually, we got to a space of understanding that our version of polyamory, which looked just like a stereotypical open relationship where we can have sex with others and no dating, was ready to be acted upon. So we did and haven't looked back. I would say that we were lucky, which luck is always involved in relationships and in life, but we worked our asses off and still do to this day. That is how all couples and polyam folk have sustainable relationships. Have there been times when I have questioned if he still loves me or finds me attractive? Yeah, of course. But that has nothing to do with us being open. It has everything to do with us continuing to navigate the toxic relationship structures that we live in today. Oh, wow. Well, that is that. Thanks for sticking with me. And if you haven't, I will never know. Thanks for allowing me to share how I evolved into the version of myself that feels so free today. Could I go back to monogamy one day? Maybe, but I don't see that being likely. But who knows? You may see an episode one day called Why I Chose to Go Back to Monogamy. And if that's the case, I'm sure I will walk you through all of the reasons for that, but don't hold your breath. All right, so that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you like more personal content and me sharing a little bit more about my journeys, please let me know. Until next time. Sex Here and Now is written and recorded by me, Matt Lockman. For more resources, education, or support, you can find me on all social platforms at Cleveland Sex Therapy. Thanks for being here, and as always, stay curious.